Alright folks, we are back with a quick little deck tech. So it is start of a quick little vacation, going camping. So why not do some mono green? It's especially timely because we got a pretty important addition for Historic and Explorer Pauper, if you want to play either of those on Arena, and getting Elvish Mystic. So this is a big deal. Previously all we had was Llanowar Elves, so at most you had, 4 1 mana, guys that you could bring out, get you a little ramp on the first turn, and so you couldn't really play that natural curve that green wants to play as consistently, where you play mana creator on turn 1, turn 2 you play a 3-drop, and then turn 3 you play a 5-drop, if you have something that can accelerate you further. Now I think what we're going to see more typically in Historic Pauper in particular is people running Llanowar Visionary. I mean, it's a bonkers card. It's really good. It's a 2/2, draws you a card when ETBs and can produce 1 mana, right? So I think that's going to be kind of the natural progression of where green goes in Historic Pauper, just because you've got a lot of value there. And green is pretty typical in its kind of mid-range status in the format. So it's turn 1 Elf, turn 2 Visionary, turn 3 Owlbear, and you've got 1/1, a 2/2, a 4/4, and you've drawn 2 cards, right? And you're going to be starting your fourth turn with, your 4th turn with 6 mana, right? So that's a good place for green to be. I, on the other hand, I want to be a little bit more aggressive, right? I mean, green doesn't have the stompy, as it's referred to, archetype in vintage Pauper, legacy, or MTGO Pauper. Its mono green version is lots of really cheap dudes. They kind of swarm you, steamroll you, and attack right through you. Historic green doesn't really look like that, right? It's definitely more of a mid-range value deck, just because there are so many green creatures that add mana and then give you cards back, right? So that's a pretty big deal, and a clear kind of delineation between the two decks. So I'm trying to lean more towards an aggressive approach. I don't have really any draw spells other than Winding Way, which is not the greatest card, but when your deck is over half creatures, a little over half creatures, it's good enough that it's generally going to be a 2 mana draw 2, sometimes draw 3, maybe even a draw 4. I have a few things in here that I'm trying to synergize with each other and see how they work. So at the 3-drop, what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for my Jewel Thief. So I'm going to play either one of my elves, either Mystic or Llanowar on turn 1. Turn 2 I'm going to play either Jewel Thief, which also gets me a quick mana, and Great Horn, which also gives me a good mana. And I think this will be if you're playing like an aggressive green or an aggressive green red, aggressive green blue, whatever whatever color you want to splash in there as your second, maybe even third color. I don't know, we'll have to see how this goes. I like those options from an aggressive standpoint because it allows me to fix what color I want, whereas Llanowar Visionary is only giving me green, so I'm kind of hemmed into what options I want to run. I think this will probably be the core for a few other decks. Artifact lands are going to be important in here, so I think that's going to be good thing to note, where you have like mass vandal options. You're going to want to get some things in there can do it, and so at the 5-drop I can run things like Self-Assembler to cheat it out. I can sacrifice off my elves to Groff because he's amazing. I mean, not really. He's cute, right? He's really strong. If you get him out, you protect him. I think the Visionary has also made it a lot better for that opening play. Before, I was having to use Kalani Gardens to give myself a token and do kind of some janky things like that. I might bring the Kalani Gardens in here, but I think with the number of mana guys that I have early on. I can turn 1 elf, turn 2 play a land, use the elf and the land, sack it off for a Groff early, and you've got Tameo Safekeeping open to protect your guy, because that's really what you want to do is, get out that removal, make them have like another removal spell for it, and if they don't, you're pretty much off to the races from there. If they do, then you can slowly start, beating away at them while you're, building your things up. Savage Swipe is, I think that's one of the first cards that'll go in this one. The Gruul Groff and some of the other decks I had a few more 2-drops in it, so I don't know that that's necessary in here, and I might just main deck more protection in the way of Snakeskin Veil, because it does synergize with Gnarlin Colony, which is amazing right now. I mean, if things are going, on your natural curve, you're seeing like, turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 2 Jewel Thief or Migratory Grain Horde, turn 3 Gnarlid Colony, and now I've got a 6/6, a 3/3 or 3/4, and a 1/1 on the board. So that's a bigger, obviously a bigger board. I'm not pulling down the same amount of cards that somebody going Visionary into Owlbear is, but I'm putting like a pretty significant threat, and if they try and stand in the way in the earlier before Gnarlid Colony gets out of control, then that could be a pretty bad trade for them, right? If they throw their 2/2, their 4/4 in the way, I come through with my 6/6 and I Tameo Safekeeping it, or play a Snakeskin Veil and I just blitz through both of them, that could pretty much end the game right there in in a mirror matchup situation. So I like the more aggressive approach. Kashak, one of my favorite dudes. And then by removing the Colonious Garden, makes room for some Tranquil Thicket to kind of squeeze in a little bit of draw. I may go down to 18 lands. I'm just keeping it 19 for now, because I still want to try and make sure I have at least 2 lands in the opener. Is kind of important. I think this is kind of a good starting point for me, I believe. And then from here, I'll expand out on it. Like I said, Savage Swipe probably doesn't belong in the list and could be something else. So we'll figure that out and see how that goes. I've just been running it a little bit in the historic queue just to make sure it's drawing okay, make sure things are, looking right. So it seems to be, okay. I do like that, it does fix and bring out things in a pretty good natural curve, so that if you get kind of wiped out, you're able to put a threat back on the table and start that clock back up on them again. So it's one of my favorite style decks. I think I'm a green player at heart. This is naturally where I like to play, where it's a very 1, 2, 3, 4 curve, but you're finding ways to get a little bit better value on what you play on those turns. So I'll see about getting some games after I get back from vacation, but I just want to throw this out there because it's kind of my basic shell of where I'll be going, just because I think between Jewel Thief and Great Horn now combined, I think that opens up a lot of options. I think what I'm most excited about is doing 2-color decks, running Simic, Gruul, Golgari, Selesnya, any of the 2-color combinations I think are going to be really strong. The only one I kind of hesitate on is green-white, just because white has some pretty good, into the battlefield draw creatures, and it's hard to pass up value like that when it's just, turn 2 creature draw a card, turn 3 creature draw a card, turn 4 2 creatures draw 2 cards. It's hard to overcome that kind of value. So I don't think that will find its way into the green-white shell. However, there are a few things that you can do in green-white that are kind of tricky, where you play something like Elf Groff. You play your Elf, you get your Jewel Thief out, you play your Groff, and then you sacrifice your mana elf, and then you use your stalwart Valkyrie to get a 3/2 flyer. So now you've got you know, a pretty imposing board. So I think I'll try it. I don't know that. Again, I don't know that it'll be the best version of green, but this will be kind of my version of green and where I start. Hope you like it, and I'll check you guys later.